logical reasoning. Okay, by the logical reasoning of induction and deduction. Okay, a great value in carrying out research. Induction is a process of reasoning from a part of the whole, whereas deduction is the process of reasoning from the some premises. Okay, a part of whole we call it as induction, and from that some premises is called a deduction. Okay, then good research is empirical. See, always good research should be empirical. What is the meaning of empirical, anyone? Empirical means what? Real data. The data is experimental data, that is called empirical. It implies that research is related basically to one or more aspects of a real situation and deals with a concurrent data that provides a basis for external validity of research results. Good research is replicable. These characteristics allows research results to verified by the replicating their study and thereby building a sound basis for decisions here. Okay, then scope of research. What is the scope? So generally the scope of research contains a search for understanding the physical and sometimes the psychological universe, the advances into applying scientific methods to define the basic understanding and evolving new techniques to apply the facts that have been revealed, and to the sum is just to understand how things can create or even deconstructed. So a lot of research is beneficial and much is meaningful less except for the sheer pleasure of understanding how things work. Engineering is an application of science, and much research is synonymous with engineering here. So in most of the times in engineering area, the research has the more chances to do in a broad manner, but in other areas which it also have the broad area, but some extent when comparing with engineering, it has a more advantage here. So then next one, the functions or the uses of research here. So generally research begins when we want to know something. Okay, when we want, a curiosity is created in the mindset of a common man, that is we want to know. Okay, when that is burned in your brain, that a curiosity is created in your brain, then you will start doing research. Okay, research is concerned with increasing our understanding. Based on your understanding, the research will continue. If you are unable to understand, you are going to stop the research and you will put commas. Okay, this type of things we are going to observe, and the research provides us with the information and knowledge needed for problem solving and making decisions here. So research provides a good information of knowledge, and this knowledge will be used for the solving the problem and making process or making decisions here. There are several functions of research. So these are the few functions which are on the topmost the functions. So we'll see exploring new facts and truth. See, exploring new fact and truth, that is about world and technology. Generally we are seeing the world, how the world is going, and what is the technology nowadays. Okay, learning the relationship that occur between the various phenomena, market or internal here. Learning the relationship between, what is the relationship between the present situation and the market and the internal area. The next one, creating theoretical knowledge. Okay, creation of a new product, then identification of market opportunities and potential risk. So we need to identify the opportunities, then we are going to take some potential risk to sustain in the market. So with the help of research only, this will be applicable and this will be done. And the next over here, solving the problems and undertaking challenges for development of company. We are going to solve the problems and undertake the challenges for development of company. So research will therefore serve the following functions. So description, explanation, prediction, monitoring and evaluation. Okay, so research limitations are there here. So you see the limitations: formulation of research aims and objectives, implementation of data collection method, sample size, lack of previous studies in research area. Okay, then scope of discussion. So these are some limitations. So we will see that one by one here. Just read this one. I'll be back in 1:30. Well, so research limitations. It is for sure that your research will have some limitations. Okay, and it is normal. However, it is critically important for you to be striving to minimize the range of scope of limitations throughout the research process. Also, you need to provide the acknowledgement of your research limitations in conclusions. Okay, then we will see the limitations here. Research limitations, formation of research aims and objectivity. So first one here, you might have formulated research aims and objectives too broadly. You can specify in which ways the formulation of research aims and objectives could be narrowed. So here there should be a aim and objectives. Without aim and objective, it is one of the limitation for the researcher. Then implementation of data collection method, because you do not have an extensive experience in primary data collection, otherwise you would not be reading this book. There is a great chance that the nature of implementation of data collection method is flawed. So here you should implement the data which you are going to collect, either it is a primary data or secondary data, that should be used in research point of view. If you are collected that the data is you kept aside or kept in a cupboard or in a shelf for years longer, then immediately what happens here, there is no use of that data, the raw data. Then next over here, okay, then next over here, sample size. Okay, sample size depends upon the nature of research problem here. So sample size is most important. If a sample size is too small, statistical test would not be able to identify significant relationship within data set. You can state that basing your study in larger sample size could have generated more accurate results. The importance of sample size is greater in quantitative studies compared to qualitative studies. Okay. Then next over here, lack of previous studies in research area. Okay. So lack of previous studies. Lack of previous studies means here. See, we need to identify the review of literature. If you are unable to read the literature, the previous studies, then it is one of the limitation for you. So literature review is one of the important part of any research, because it helps to identify the scope of works that have been done so far in research area. Okay, literature review findings are used as the foundation for researcher to be built upon to achieve his or her research objectives. Okay, scope of discussion. Then we have to show the scope of the discussion also. The next one is here, approaches of research. There are two types of approaches in research, that is quantitative approach and qualitative approach. So quantitative approach is here, the quantity, the name itself says quantity. quantitative approach or quantitative research involves the generation of data in quantitative form, which can be subjected to quantity analysis in a formal and rigid fashion. This approach can be further subdivided into inferential, experimental, and simulation approach to research. See, this quantitative approach is subdivided into inferential approach, experimental approach, and simulation approach. So what is inferential approach? The aim of inferential research is to form a database to infer relationship of population. Example, survey method. It is done to conclude that sample of population possess same characteristics as that of population. So in survey method, what happens here, we are going to select some random samples. Random samples means out of 1000 people, we will pick up with the only the numbers, number 5, number 10, number 15, number 20, 25. In this way, we will pick up only 100 people out of 1000, and we are going to see the relationship between these 100 and these 1000 people. That type of method is called as inferential approaches. In inferential approaches, we are going to see the relationship that infer between these 100 and 1000. That is called inferential approach. Then experimental approach. The experimental approach is conducted under a controlled research environment. Controlled research environment, and some variables are manipulated to observe their effect on other variables. Okay, in experimental research here, we are going to manipulate. We are going to see if we apply this, then what is the result. Okay, so this is called experimental. So we are going to do some experiments also. Okay, in experiment, we will add different chemicals, and we are going to see the reactions. In the same manner here, because in experimental, everything will be conducted under the control of research environment. Okay, simulation approach. Simulation approach involves construction of an artificial environment within which relevant information and data can be generated. It permits an observation of continuous or dynamic behavior of a system, or it's a subset under the control condition. So this is also under control condition. Simulation approach. Simulation approach means here there will be a artificial environment. We call it as a assumptions. It depends on the assumptions only. So if you attempt to this one, and you will get this result. If you apply this one, this result will be given. Then this is also under the controlled condition. Then qualitative research. This is about quantitative research, quantitative approach. Then qualitative approach. Here in qualitative approach is also called as qualitative research. It involves study of subjective assessment of attitude, behavior, and opinion. That is non-quantitative data. In this case, the research is a function. In this case, research is a function of researcher insight and impression. It involves use of techniques such as depth interview, group interview, projective techniques, etc. So this approach involves study of non-quantitative data, that is characteristics, attributes, attitude, opinion, or behavior. In this case, research is a function of researcher insight and impressions here. Okay, so the next one is here. Types of research and methods of research, the research methods versus the methodology. Then we will conclude that one. So we will see descriptive versus analytical research in types of research. So descriptive research includes surveys. We are going to survey, or we are going to describe, that is called. Fact-finding inquiries of different kinds. Descriptive research includes surveys and fact-finding inquiries of different kinds. That is, the major purpose of descriptive research is description of the state of affairs as it exists at present. Okay, we are going to describe the past situation, the past things. What is the present condition of that thing? That is called we are going to exist the present situation. In social sciences and business research, we quite often use the term ex post facto research for descriptive research studies. Okay, the other name of descriptive research is ex post facto research. The main characteristics of this research is that the researcher has no control over the variables. See, we are going to describe here. So while we are describing the variables, there is no control over the variable, because when we go for searching a new thing or doing a research here, we will face different variables. Okay, different variables we are going to identify, and there is no control over on these different variables. Here, the main characteristic of this method is that researcher has no control over the variables. He can only report what has happened and what is happening. See, what is happened and what is happening, that information will be sent by the researcher. Most ex post facto research projects are used in descriptive studies, in which a researcher seeks to measure such items as, for example, frequency of shopping, preference of people, similar data. Okay, ex post facto studies also include attempts by researchers to discover causes, even when they cannot control the variables. Okay, the method of research utilized in descriptive research are survey methods. In survey, see, we go for doing survey. Some relevant data is available, irrelevant data also is available. Sometimes we fixed this amount of data should be collected, but when we go to do the survey, what happens here, the what is our expectation, that expectation will be reached, and beyond that data will be available. So there is no control over the descriptive research. So these type of situation also available here. And here the method of research utilized in descriptive research are survey methods of all kinds, including comparative and correlational methods. In analytical research, on other hand, the researcher has to use facts or information already available. Okay, then in analytical, what happens here, the information which is available, on that we are going to apply the different tools and techniques here. And the next one is here, applied versus fundamental. Applied research aims at finding a solution for an immediate problem facing a society or a industrial or business organization, whereas fundamental research is mainly concerned with generalization and a formulation of a theory. Okay, applied research is nothing but immediate problem which the society is facing, and these applied research is also called as action research, basic research, or pure research. Okay, whereas fundamental research is mainly concerned with generalization and with formulation of a theory. Gathering knowledge for knowledge, say is term has pure or basic research. Already knowledge is there. Again, we are gathering some additional knowledge, that is called pure or basic research. We know how to operate a computer, but you don't know how to drive a vehicle or drive a car. You don't know how to install any programs in the computer. So you already have some knowledge, but you are adding some additional knowledge, that is called pure or basic research. Then next one here, research concerning some natural phenomenon or relating to pure mathematics are examples of fundamental research. Similarly, research studies. Similarly, research studies concerning human behavior carried on with a view to make generalization about human behavior are examples of fundamental research here. So listen carefully. Here, research concerning some natural phenomenon, some natural problems. Okay, unexpected problems are the examples of fundamental research here. In quantitative, qualitative. In quantitative research, the measurement of quantity or amount, it is applicable to phenomena that can be expressed in terms of quantity. In qualitative research, on the other hand, is concerned with qualitative phenomena relating to or involving quality or kind. For instance, when we are interested in investigating the reasons of human behavior, why people think or do certain things, we quite often talk of motivation research, an important type of qualitative research. So here in quantitative research, what amount of the data which we collected, it should be measured in the form of quantity or in the form of amount. But coming to qualitative, here in qualitative research, most of the times we are going to focus on quality only. Okay, quality will be considered. The next one here, conceptual versus empirical. Conceptual research is that related to some abstract idea or theory. Okay, small concept. What's the meaning of concept? Anybody? Concept means what? General meaning of concept. Yes, it is over to you, students. Anybody? Veena and Sai Sapna, Syed Salma Sultana. And the next one is Redmi is there. The name is not written. What is concept? Meaning of concept. Yes, anybody can answer. Just I am asking the meaning of concept. Concept means what? Yes, no one is answering. Concept means what? Yes, are you there in the class? Yes.
Plan,
What is concept? Concept means what?
plan,
Plan,
idea.
idea. Yes, idea is the right one. So concept means a small mental picture. Picture we call it as. Generally, if you go to, you are going to Kaleshwaram or you are going to any other state, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Bangalore, to visit some historical places for the first time. Before you start from your home, a small picture will be formed in your brain regarding that historical places. That is called concept, a small mental picture. That is called concept here. So here conceptual research is nothing but an abstract or idea about that problem. It is generally used by philosophers and thinkers to develop new concept or to reinterpret existing ones. On the other hand, empirical research empirical research relies on experience or observation alone, often without due regard for the system and theory. Okay, so the first hand information is called empirical research, and that is called pure. Then some other types of research are there here. So what are they? We will see. The other types of research or variation of one or more of observation, above stated approach based on either the purpose of research or the time required to accomplish research on the environment in which research is done, or on the basis of some other similar factor. Okay, from the point of view time, we think of research either as one time research or longitudinal research. In the former case, the research is confined to a single time period, whereas in the later case, the research is carried on over several time periods. Research can be field setting research, or laboratory research, or simulation research, depending upon the environment in which it is to be carried out. Is to be carried out. So these are the few types of research. In addition to that, we have seen that some research are there. They are the field setting research, laboratory research, simulation research, depending upon the environment in which the research is carried out. So in addition to that, clinical and diagnostic research are also there. Okay. So we will see the research methods versus methodology. So this is the last one. So we will conclude this chapter. Then we will begin the another chapter, that is unit number 3, process of research. So research method. Okay, with the help of see this definition says that it seems appropriate at this juncture to explain the difference between research methods and research methodology. Research methods may be understood as all those methods, techniques that are used for conduct conduction of research. Research methods or techniques thus refer to the methods the researcher. At times, a distinction is also made between research techniques and research methods. Research technique refers to the behavior and instruments we use in performing research operations, such as making observations regarding data, techniques of processing data, and the like. Research methods refer to behavior and instruments used in selecting and constructing research techniques here. So these are the different types according to different situations, methods and methodology. What are they? We'll see. See methods and techniques, library research, analysis of historical data, historical records, analysis of documents. Then here techniques, recording of notes, content analysis, tape and film listening and analysis. So field research, non-participants, direct observation, observation behavior scales. Okay. So mail questionnaire, mail observations, opinionaires, personal interview, focus interview, group interview, telephone survey, case study method. Okay, laboratory research also there. In laboratory, small group of study, random behavior play and role analysis. Use of audio, video, visual recording devices, use of observation. This is about methods. And methodology is a way systematically solve the research problem. It may be understood as a science of studying how research is done scientifically. That is called methodology. Which method we are going to follow? Methodology is scientific or systematic manner. Okay, systematic manner we are following. In addition to that, here it is necessary for the researcher to know not only the research methods and techniques, but also methodology. Okay. Yes. So this is another important one, that is unit number 3, process of research. Okay, the process of research should be required for us. So please take a photo. Anybody interested, take the photo of this diagram, the process inflow chart. Okay, I will be back in 1 minute. Please take a photo and just read this one. as well. So research process. So this research process is step by step. If you follow, then you are going to get a proper result. If you are unable to get a proper result, even though the research is conducted once again. So the first one is define research problem. Okay, the problem will be defined here. The review of literature, review concepts and theories, and previous research findings, then formulate the hypothesis, design the research design, collection of data, analysis of data, then interpretation or report. So we will see one by one here. So listen carefully. However, the following order concerning various steps provides a useful procedural guideline regarding the research process. Formulating the research problem, first one is. So first, formulate the research problem, extensive literature survey. So according to that problem, is there any previous studies which are related to this problem is there or not? We have to identify. Then develop the hypothesis. Hypothesis is nothing but a assumption or supposition, and prepare a research design. A research design is nothing but a blueprint of that research. A blueprint of that research, and that blueprint, with the help of that blueprint, we are going to carry the research, and we will get what we expected. Then determine the sample size also. So sample size is also one of the important factor. So collecting the data collection, whether according to our research, according to our research problem, design the data collection, whether which data collection we are going to follow, that is primary data or secondary data. Then execution of project. Okay, the project will be executed, or our research will be executed. Then next over here, analysis of data. The data will be analyzed with the help of statistical tools in a scientific manner. Okay, the next, hypothesis testing, then generalization and interpretation, preparation of the report or presentation of the results, formal write-up of conclusion reached. Okay, these are the process of research. So please take a photocopy of these also. In examination point of view, this question is very much important. It will look for you. I think you have taken the photo. Okay, formulate the research problem here. See, there are two types of research problems, namely which relate to the state of nature and those which relate to the relation between the variables. So the first one is this is the two types of research problem will be there. The first one is here, nature of that problem and the relationship between the variables. Okay, extensive literature survey. Already we have seen what is the extensive literature survey, research design. Here research design also, description, diagnostic, different categories are there. Okay, then sample design, determining the sample design. All the items under consideration in any field of inquiry constitute a universe or population. A complete enumeration of all the items in population is known as a census inquiry. It can be presumed that in such an inquiry, when all the items are covered, no element of chance, no element of chance and moreover here, sampling design. See, the sampling design here generally deliberate sampling, convenient sampling, judgment sampling. So these are there. So you observe carefully. The samples can either be probability samples or non-probability samples. With probability samples, each of the element known probably of being included in sample, but in non-probability samples do not allow the researcher to determine this probability. So probability samples are those based on simple random sampling. They are simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified random sampling. See, simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling. Then clustering. That cluster is also called as area sampling. Whereas, see, simple random sampling, number one, yes. Systematic random sampling, number two, that is again yes. Stratified random sampling, okay, yes, yes. See, three S's are there. Simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, then cluster or area sampling. Whereas in non-probability samples are those based on convenience sampling, judgment sampling, quota sampling. Okay, so these are the non-random sample. So the collection of data, collecting the data in dealing with any real life problem, it is often found that data at hand are inadequate. Okay, so in real life situation, the problem is there. The problem we need to solve that one immediately. So the proper data is not available. So we go for collecting the data. Data will be collected, and if the appropriate data is available, then we are going to solve the that situation and solve the problem. So two ways are there. That is primary source of data collection method and secondary source of data collection is there. So primary can be collected either through experiment or through survey. If the researcher conducts an experiment, he observes some quantitative measurements or the data, with the help of which he examines the truth contained in his hypothesis. But in the case of survey, data can be collected by any one or more of the following ways. Okay, so in primary data, different ways are there. So we will see by observation. This method implies the collection of information by way of investigators' own observation without interviewing the respondent. So without doing interviews. Okay, for example, you observe some of the great organizations or good organizations without doing interviews, they will go for a small observation. By observation only, they will be going to select their employees from the applicants applied for this job. Okay, the information obtained relates to what is currently happening and is not complicated by either the past behavior or the future intention or or attitude of respondent. This method is no doubt an expensive method, and the information provided by this method is also very limited. Okay, so as such, this method is not suitable in inquiries very large samples are concerned. Next one, through personal interview. So the investigator follows a rigid procedure and seeks answers to set of preconceived questions through personal interviews. This method of collecting data is usually carried out in a structured way, whether output depends upon the ability of the interviewer to a large extent here. Personal interview. So in personal interview also preconceived questions are there. Okay, in preconceived questions are some questions are made advanced. According to this question, you have to answer. This question is nothing but they will follow some rigid procedure. Rigid procedure means here what they are expected from these personalities that according to their expectation they will frame a rigid procedure. The next, through telephone interview. So this method of collecting information involves contacting the respondents on telephone itself, making phone calls to the sample respondents. And this is not a very widely used method, but it plays an important role in industrial surveys in developed regions, particularly when the survey has to be accomplished in a very limited time. Next one, by mailing questionnaire. So this is a now it is a trending now. Mailing, simply we are mailing the questionnaires. So the researcher and the respondents do come in contact with each other if this method of survey is adopted. Questionnaires are mailed to the respondents with a request to return after completing the same. Okay. So in the questionnaire, a list of questions will be there according to their wish, a preconceived notions or called as a uh, questions are made in advance. According to that question, please answer and just send it back to the concerned mail. This is the condition. So they will get what they expected here. So it is most extensively used method in various economic and business surveys. Before applying this method, usually a pilot study for testing the questionnaire is conducted, which reveals the weakness, if any, of the questionnaire. Questionnaire is to be used must be prepared very carefully so that it may prove to be effective in collecting the relevant information. So before mailing a questionnaire, they want to know the weaknesses of that area and what are the strong strength area. So a small pilot study will be conducted. So on these pilot study, okay, questionnaire is prepared and it will be implemented on the sample respondent. If they respond and what are the weak areas, it will be identified, and in preparing the final questionnaire, they will focus on these areas and they will try to give a proper questionnaire, and they expect effective in collecting the information which are relevant one. Okay, then the next one is through schedule. Under this method, the enumerators are appointed and given training. They are provided with schedules containing relevant questions. These enumerators go to respondents with these schedules. Data are collected by filling up the schedules by enumerators on the basis of replies given by respondent. Okay, so generally, these ASHA workers and some agencies, they go for collecting some information. They will sit in front of that house and they will ask the sample respondents different questions, and they will fill up that questionnaire. Okay, they are called enumerators. This method is called as a schedule method. In this schedule method, some occasional field checks on the work of enumerators may ensure sincere work. The researcher should select one of these methods of collecting the data, taking into consideration the nature of investigation, objective and scope of the inquiry, financial resources, available time, and the desired degree of accuracy. Though he should pay attention to all these factors, but much depends upon the ability and experience of the researcher. In this context, Dr. A. L. Bowley very active remarks that in collection of statistical data, common sense is the chief request and experience of a chief teacher. So these two things we are going to consider. Why? Because here common sense, some questions will be, while framing a questionnaire, the questionnaire should be, they have to follow a standard. Okay, and there should be an idea for a enumerator as well as for a supervisor also. Then execution of the project. So execution of project is a very important step in the research process. If the execution of the project proceeds on correct lines, the data to be collected would be adequate and dependable. The research, the researcher should see that the project is executed in the systematic manner and in time. If the survey is to be conducted by means of structured questionnaires, data can be readily machine processed. In such a situation, questions as well as possible answers may be coded. If the data are if the data are see here, wait a minute. If the data are to be collected through interviews, arrangements should be made for a proper selection and training of the interviewers. Okay, before they are going to conduct or implement this project, they go for a interview. Interview means here selection of the fellows. Okay, fellows are the important. They are giving some fellowship. They are going to collect some researcher. This researcher will be appointed to complete this project here. So training will be given with the help of instruction manuals, which explain that very clearly the job of the interviewers. At each step, occasional field checks should be made to ensure that the interviewers are doing their assigned job sincerely and efficiently here in the project here. So a careful watch should be kept for unanticipated factors in order to keep the survey as much realistic as possible. This, in other words, means that steps should be taken to ensure that the survey is under statistical control so that the collected information is in accordance with the predefined standard of accuracy. If some of the respondents do not cooperate, some suitable methods should be designed to tackle this problem. One method of dealing with the non-response problem is make the list of non-respondents and take a small sub-sample of them, and then with the help of experts, the vigorous efforts can be made for securing response. Analysis of data. Okay, this is another one. In analysis of data, after the data have been collected, the researcher turns to the task of analyzing them. The analysis of data requires a number of closely related operations such as establishment of categories, the application of these categories, the raw data through coding, tabulation, and then drawing statistical inferences. The unwidely data should be necessarily be condensed into a few manageable groups and tables for further analysis. Thus, researchers should classify the raw data into some purposeful and usable categories. So in that here, coding, editing, tabulation. So coding, giving sometimes we are going to no need to mention the name of sometimes here. See, for example, any industry secondary data is collected. So we are not mentioning the company name. Simply coding number will be given to that company. The code will be given. Then after that coding in the sense in the form of symbols, or it will be tabulated and counted. Then next we go for editing also. Editing in the sense, is there any mistakes or any corrections? Is there in between the sentence or in calculation part also? The editing process will be conducted to which improves the quality of the data for coding. And with coding, the stages is ready for tabulation. So tabulation is a part of a technical procedure wherein the classified data are put in the form of tables. Okay, the mechanical devices can be made use of this junctioner. A great deal of data, especially in large inquiries, is tabulated by the computers. Computers not only save time but also make it possible to study larger number of variables affecting a problem simultaneously. So in this process, we have seen this one. Then hypothesis testing also. Testing will be conducted with the help of t-test and f-test. Different tests will be conducted to draw some inferences from the available data, and generalization and interpretation. Generalization and interpretation means here, after calculation part is completed, after testing of hypothesis completed, based on the result, whether we need to accept the or reject the null hypothesis, and we are going to write some interpretation is called as the findings on the basis of the same theory. And so the next one is here, preparation of the report or the thesis. Finally, the researcher has to prepare the report. What has been done by him? Writing of report must be done with great care, keeping in view the following. Layout of the report should be as follows. That is preliminary pages. Preliminary page number is nothing but 20 pages. Preliminary pages, the main text and end matter. Preliminary pages. Preliminary pages means here the first page, the second page. Okay, so we will see what includes in preliminary pages. So you observe carefully here in preliminary pages here, acknowledgement and forward. Generally, you observe in any textbook, take any example of any textbook. In that textbook, you will see acknowledgement, forward, table, and a list of tables, list of graphs, charts. Okay. The next in preliminary introduction, summary of findings, main report, conclusion, bibliography. Okay, we will see in this one. See. Preliminary pages, acknowledge. Then main text of the report should be have the following parts. Main text of the report means here introduction. In introductory, here you observe carefully, it should contain a clear statement of the objective of the research and explanation of the methodology. So here we will see this one. So generally, while you are writing a thesis or a MPhil dissertation, here what happens here? See, first is a preliminary pages are, we know preliminary page means front page, just like a university name and the department name, the supervisor name, and here the scholar name will be written in the first page. The next acknowledgement, sorry, declaration. After declaration, a certificate of the supervisor that the above content or the matter which is collected by the researcher is nowhere it is copied from any other sources, and elsewhere it is not submitted to any university or any for any diploma. So it will be written in that certificate. The next one is acknowledgement. After acknowledgement, some list of tables. The tables, is there a tables in between the pages or between the chapters, that tables numbers as well as the page numbers will be written. The next one here is the chart. If you added any chart, that a chart number and the page number also, it will be there in the preliminary pages. Then coming to the main text of the report, first thing is here introduction. Introduction. In introduction, some importance, even advantage or disadvantage. Slowly go for the review of literature. Okay, review of literature means according to your topic, the previous studies, have you done any review? That will be there. That is called review of literature. So based on the review of literature, from all these review of literature, what I observe is here, this problem is identified. So according to this, my statement of the problem is this one. So you have to write your statement of the problem. So according to your statement of the problem, you need to write the next step immediately. That is the objective of the study. After completion of objective of study, methodology will be written. Okay, in the first chapter till chapterization we are going to complete. Then next second chapter about the organization, and the main content will begin from the chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6, according to your convenient, according to the data which you collected. You want to elaborate, then you are going to elaborate by adding one more chapter. Then finally, summary of findings. Okay, from all these chapter wise summaries will be written. Then main report and conclusion will be written. So finally, bibliography. In bibliography, that is list of books, journals. First, we have to write a list of books. Is there any books you copied from that journal names and reports, etc. Consulted should be also given at the end of the end. Index should be also given, especially in published research report. Then the report should be written in a concise and objective style in a simple language, avoiding vague expressions such as it seems, there may be, and the like. Charts and illustrations in the main report should be used only if they present the information more clearly and forcibly. So calculated confidence limits must be mentioned, and the various constraints experience in conducting the research operations may as well be stated. So this is about the research process. So wait a minute, I will share the once the syllabus. See, we completed unit number 3, and the data collection methods also. We'll see the data collection method in the next class. But tomorrow, we at the same time, we'll meet and we are going to discuss the data collection methods and interpretation of data and report writing. We will see tomorrow.
Sir, problematic, sir.
Problematic, huh? Okay. So if it is time, if it is possible, tomorrow we'll start this correlation analysis and regression analysis. Okay, na?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Tomorrow we'll going to complete this correlation. Okay.
Okay, sir.
See,
Okay,
once you see this correlation there, so this is important, and a number of times also the questions from these chapter we got. So listen here. Definition of correlation, significance of correlation, types of correlation, positive, negative correlation. So this is for 4 marks you will get, and linear and non-linear correlation differences, simple, partial, multiple correlation, methods of studying correlation. In that, scatter diagram method is there, correlation graph method is there, Carl Pearson coefficient of correlation, rank correlation. In Carl Pearson coefficient of correlation, see here, Carl Pearson coefficient of correlation, we have 2 methods. One first method is actual mean method, and another second method is assumed mean method. So according to the 2 situations, we are going to implement the problem according to the problem. If the problem is given, x values and y values are given, but the examiner never use the word direct, that is called actual mean method applied, or apply assumed mean method. They never use these two words. According to the problem, we are going to identify actual mean or assumed mean. So how to identify, we will discuss tomorrow. The next one, rank correlation coefficient. Rank correlation means when ranks are given, when equal ranks are not given, when ranks are not given. Okay, then we are going to discuss. So for example, in rank correlation, see, in a classroom there are 5 students, 50 students are there. 5 students got second rank. So which rank we need to assign? Equal marks they got. Which rank we need to assign? That we are going to see in the rank correlation. Then next, concurrent deviation. Concurrent deviation is also one of the easiest method. So we will see tomorrow. Okay, then after regression analysis, then this business forecasting is also a theoretical part. Then in block 3, see, probability and theoretical distribution. So this is some problematic part. The next hypothesis, this is also problematic. Okay, in coming classes we are going to complete the remaining part. Okay, so at this we will complete, we will close today. So we meet tomorrow at the same time, 1:30. Yes.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for bearing with me. Thank you very much.